What's up, family? Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. We are back with another broadcast, and I am happy to be on alive and ready to talk about some of these things that people are talking about in the news, in the chats, in your homes, the frustrations that people have, the aggravations that people have. We're going to talk all about it. And just like it was last week, this is going to be an interactive conversation. So I'm going to give those of you guys who are not aware of some of the topics I'm going to bring up today, I'm going to give you some information on these topics and you're going to weigh in. So not only will I highlight some of your comments in the sessions in the section here on Facebook and on YouTube. But we're going to talk about it. We're going to unpack this a little bit more. We're going to understand what is going on. We're going to even know what we should be doing and how we should be moving with respects to some of the genders out there. The equalizer says change the title. Change the title to what? What are you talking about? I don't what's the matter? Take the 19 out of your title, YouTube. Oh, that's what y'all want me to do? All right, after I finish the live, I'll take it out. I will take it out after I finish the live just so I can make y'all happy. YouTube ain't bothering me. YouTube ain't bothering me. But I get what y'all saying. I understand, family. So thank y'all for looking out. We're going to talk about a number of things. I'm also going to even talk about the viral video that has been going around with the pull-up the pull-up summer, people pulling up, people giving their address out and people showing up to their houses. So we're going to have a real deep conversation. But before we get started, brothers and sisters, let me go ahead and do some housekeeping. If you are on YouTube, I'm going to need you guys to go ahead and smash the subscribe button. I for profit. Thank you for joining the channel. You are more than a blessing. I'm going to need you guys to smash the subscribe button. Give the video a thumbs up. For all the little haters, about 10 of y'all, I think I picked up 6 more haters. I got like 10 of y'all out there. Go ahead and give the videos a thumbs down. But most importantly, share the video. Share the video so we all can have a conversation about what we need to be conversing about. If you are on Facebook, I'm going to need you to not only like and follow the page, but I'm also going to need you to go ahead and give some interaction with some of the hearts, the thumbs up, the wild faces, the angry faces. Let's just go ahead and have a really good critical conversation. Share the video. It's going to be PG-13. I'm going to keep my mouth in order. I'm going to keep it checked. I've been doing well with the YouTube community. They have not been making my videos, censored so much, and they have not been putting me in the yellow zone for my warnings. So I've been on good behavior. So some things I'm going to be on good behavior about tonight, but we're still going to have a really good conversation. So we're going to start with COVID. Oh, Lord, oh, Lord, oh, Lord. So I went out to dinner tonight and I was having a conversation about some of the stuff that is in the news regarding these vaccines, because they're getting on my goddamn nerves with these vaccines. I don't know if it's getting on your nerves. I know some of y'all are like pro-vaccine. And listen, I'm not anti-vaccine. I'm just anti-vaccine for me and mine. You understand what I'm trying to say? I know some of you guys are pro-vaccines, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think that we need to be able to have critical discourse about this whole vaccination craziness that's going on without people unraveling and without people trying to push their ideas and their beliefs on other people. Like, if you're able to wear your little button that says I'm vaccinated, then people like me should be able to talk about why we don't want to be vaccinated without people unraveling and getting out of control. I mean, people are cutting off friendships. People are breaking up in relationships. I mean, things are you don't know the conversations I be having with people. People are out of control because some people choose not to be vaccinated. Now, that's right. So Dean Winchester says, getting pressured. Hold on. Dean Winchester says, getting pressured to get vaxxed by my family. I'm not having it. Thinking about escaping to Hawaii. Well, I'm glad that you able to escape, because not all of us are able to escape. And that's why some of us just got to fight back with the nonsense that's going on out here. But let me tell you about my dinner conversation. So the only thing I wanted to do was be heard. But some people And I'm not saying this person was pushing his vaccination ideas on me. I'm not saying that. But I just felt like sometimes with the vaxxers, right? Some of y'all are ridiculous. It's just my opinion. But I think sometimes with the vaxxers, they don't want to hear what you have to say. Even if you can show them evidence, researched evidence, not somebody writing a blog, right? Not somebody who has just an opinion and they're writing their opinion in an editorial part of a newspaper, but somebody that can show you some information that you should probably just consider. You don't have to agree with it, but read it over. Let's have an adult conversation about it. Let's really explore the dynamics around this emergency use experimental vaccine. Let's really look at the history of certain vaccines. Let's look at other pandemics and how those things. Let's have a real critical conversation. And what I'm noticing, and this is just from my opinion, maybe y'all see something different. So be open to share it with me. This is going to be a safe space because my moderators are on deck. And if people want to be stupid, we can go ahead and block people. It's just that simple, right? But what I'm saying to you guys is, let's just be able to have conversations without calling people names, without being all excessive. Because if you really think about it, in my opinion, if you really think about it, just where we are right now today, I think the whole thing is stupid, in my opinion. This is why I think it's stupid. So I don't know about you guys in your state. So we're just free flowing today. So is that okay, y'all? Is that okay? See, we already have another asshole. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is an asshole. Stay affected. Stay infected. Can y'all just get people like him out the room? Because this is what I mean when I say we can't have a critical conversation. Because people get in their emotions, they get all up in their bag, and this is what happens. It shuts down conversation. It makes it difficult to have critical discourse because they're angry because people don't do what they want them to do. And this is what's happening in our country. And not with the vaccination. Everything I'm going to talk about today is like people get angry, they get nasty, they unravel, they show their emotional immaturity because people don't agree with them. And even though Darnell is just like a Riri, and it's okay. We have a lot of Riris around. It's okay, Darnell. We love you. We love you. We want you to take your medication. We love you. We want you to take your medication. But there's a lot of Darnells around, right? In all due respect. There's a lot of Darnells around. They're not able to just have a conversation. See, critical discourse means you state your opinion, I state my opinion, right? And we don't know who's right. We don't know who's wrong because the research is ongoing and we don't have enough information out there that we can trust, because 1 minute people put out information and then another minute they contract their information. And then another minute, someone else is losing their job about misinformation. Like the whole thing is freaking crazy. People are allowed to decide what they're going to do with their bodies. People are allowed to do that. What annoys me, in my opinion, is the self-righteous people. The self-righteous people who don't want to make room for anybody else in their opinion. They want to block, muffle, and bully other people who don't agree with them. And that's what's toxic and nauseating. Y'all understand what I'm trying to say? So we have a lot of people out here that can't have normal conversations with people. I was just expressing my story. So let's get back to my story because we're done with Mr. Riri, But let's get back to my story. So I'm asking critical questions in the conversation. And I'm noticing the person that I'm talking to, instead of answering the questions, they're bringing up a lot of talking points that's in main media that has nothing to do with the questions that I asked. For example, we were talking about the vaccination. And the question is, does it concern you that the vaccinations are considered experimental? The FDA has not yet approved it, right? They're gathering data. Yeah, they had their little their test dummies, but at this point, does it bother you that is not approved and right now it's just considered emergency use and is being referred to as experimental? Does that bother you? And instead of answering that question, it's like, look, the whole idea is about herd immunity. That's not what I asked you. I asked you a simple question. If it's no, just say no, it doesn't bother me, so I can explore reasons why it doesn't bother you. I think that's a real simple question. But when you start giving me your media talking points, it lets me know that you're not really thinking independently for yourself. So then I asked the person, did you take both your shots yet? And the person only took one shot, right? And was like, well, I haven't had time. I took the one shot and, my doctor said it's okay. Like I said, but I thought it was like a time period you had. And I'm just asking because I'm not with the vaccine crap, right? So I'm just asking a question. I'm not being argumentative. I'm not questioning. I'm not judging. I'm just trying to understand. So I say, I thought there was a certain time frame you were supposed to take the individual shot and then you go and you take the second shot. So what's the efficacy if it's not taken within the same time frame? So the person's like, well, my doctor said it didn't matter. So I was like, really? That's kind of strange. Like it doesn't matter. So why are they pushing it back to back if it doesn't matter? And so he goes, well, it's like 60% effective with one shot and then maybe be like 90-95% with the second shot. I was like, really? Those are the numbers? And I said, let me ask you a question. Did you get an informed consent when you went to go take the shot so you can understand any side effects, complications, ramifications for taking the shots? What's in the medicine? Did you get any of that? And so the response was, listen, it literally was like this. Listen, everything was sent digitally. You just sign, and go. Did I take my time and read through everything? No, I didn't. I just signed, got it. Okay, go. And I was like, oh, wow. And I said, I don't know. See, it's just stuff like that. I'm just not comfortable with it. I said, what made you comfortable to do that? And I can just tell that my questions was I don't know if they were uncomfortable or bothering a person. My whole thing is Nathaniel it's a live. Nathaniel, are you new to the community? It's alive. It's not recorded. It's alive. So welcome, right? So I said, my whole thing is this, like, if we can't have a conversation about the people who are taking it, okay, so did you research it? What was some of the informed consent information? What is the what is the effectiveness of the drug for you? How do you feel about it? What are your thoughts about it? What is your understanding about the drug? Like, if you can't have those conversations and really sit down and be able to hold your position why you are making this decision without unraveling or becoming emotionally uncomfortable or dysregulated, like, you're part of the problem, right? It's just like this person is saying, that is sadly a lot of people. They're not being properly informed. They're not being properly informed. They're not even willing to have the conversation, because the truth is, see, when people are not ready to have the conversation and they're not willing to have the conversation, is because they don't know. And nobody really wants to say, I'm ignorant, I don't know. Nobody really wants to say, well, yeah, I saw it. The side effects are, concerning, but I did it anyway. No one really wants to say that. But this is your health. So when I ask simple questions like, so what do you think about Biden's door-to-door situation, going from door to door, church to church, community leader to community leader, setting up shop, closing down big vaccination sites and bringing them into the communities, bringing them into churches, bringing them into community organizations, bringing them to local leaders to push it. What do you think about that? And when a person says, whatever, like, this is what we just got to do. And that's the conversation. It's kind of frustrating to me. So now you have things like, you got people, let me see if I can bring it up. So you have political figures that are out here saying that Biden needs to stop straddling the fence. And I'm paraphrasing, right? Y'all can read the articles for yourself, but they're basically saying that Biden needs to stop straddling the fence and go hard on making this a mandate, so that people, pretty much, in my opinion, people no longer have the choice of saying that they're not going to do it. If we make employers mandated, if we make schools mandated, daycare centers mandated, then people don't have a choice to get around it, because that's going to become the norm. And so the argument is that stop straddling the fence, make it a mandate, so that it now is the norm and people could just do it right away. That's the conversation we was having today, right? Right. Somebody's saying they plan to go door to door to ask people if they have taken the shot. Like, you're not knocking on my door asking me nothing, just to be honest with you. Like, I suggest don't even come to my door. I'm going to treat you like let me shut up. See, I was going to say some shit. We're going to be nice today. Right? We're going to be nice today. But my thing is, that's right. It's all about the money. It is all about the money, right? No, there's no mandate yet. No one is saying, Dewana, no one is saying there's a mandate. I'm saying the conversation is about forcing Biden to make a decision, or to push it as a mandate, or strongly encourage by giving incentives for schools, businesses, colleges, universities to make it mandatory in their institutions and their facilities, so that we can normalize it and people won't have no choice but to get it. I think that's a gross violation of our rights, right? So what I'm saying to you is, I didn't say it was a mandate. I'm saying that this is where the conversation is going, right? This is where the conversation is going. My whole thing is, what is this big push and why is it happening? Now, people's going to say, well, the big push is because the numbers and people are dying, whatever the case is, blah, blah, blah. I get that. Understood. Now, y'all know I had COVID. I still don't even got my smell back. I can smell things, but everything smells like burnt coffee. I don't have full taste back. Everything tastes the same. No matter what I eat, everything tastes the same. And luckily for me, in my immunity, I wasn't in the hospital. I wasn't like dying. Luckily for me, it irritated my asthma a little, shunting, but I got through that, right? Because I'm a survivor, right? I need to get my shirt that says I survived COVID, like people with the cancer shirts, right? I need to be able to get something like that. But my whole thing is, when you have these kind of conversations about mandating people to take vaccines, walking door to door, and for me, I have a different approach to it. So my conversation with people is like, let's not back away from certain aspects of science. If we're going to consider science and biology, let's consider everything, right? And what I mean by that is, if you know anything about antibodies. If you know anything about antibodies, like, for example, let me give you guys an example. I know that some of you guys out there, when you were children, y'all had chickenpox. Now, I never had chickenpox. My mother never had chickenpox. When I told a doctor, when I was pregnant with my children, and I told the doctor that I never had chickenpox, the doctor didn't even believe me, because I was pregnant. He got all panicked and was like, do you know what can happen to you? All this crazy stuff, got all panicked. He did an immunity test to see if I had antibodies for chickenpox. When it came back that I had no antibodies, he went like crazy about it. Do you know if you get chickenpox, you can die. Your child can die. You're too old. You're going to die. You're going to die. I'm going to die. But I never had chickenpox, right? To my understanding as a child, and you guys can tell me what y'all think. To my understanding as a child, I was told that when your child had chickenpox, you wanted, maybe because this is how we grew up. I don't know how y'all grew up, but in the Bronx, New York, I'm gonna tell you how we grew up. If somebody in your family had chickenpox, as all my cousins did, we were all made to stay together, hang out together, right? Take baths together, sleep in the same bed together. We were made to do all these things because the belief was you might as well just get it right now. Everybody get chickenpox right now so that we can get through it and you can go ahead back to school and call it a day. Right? This is what it was told in my family. So Dewana's saying yes. Anybody else had that whole thing going on when y'all was growing up, where your family made y'all all stay together because, you know, the chickenpox was a childhood disease, and once you got it, you develop some antibodies, and then you go back to school, and then chances of you getting it again was slim to none. And if you did get it a second time around, it was less because the antibodies was able to fight off the chickenpox virus. Y'all remember that, right? Am I the only one? Okay, some people are saying yes. Okay, great. My family did that too. Yes, my sister and I. Okay, so y'all get it. The whole idea was to get it so that you can develop antibodies, and therefore now you become immune. So if you're in school and somebody else has the chickenpox in school, you won't get it. Now, no doctor can explain why I never got chickenpox. No doctor can explain why my mama never got chickenpox, right? And she was a full-grown woman, never had chickenpox. No doctor can explain why we never had chickenpox. No doctor can explain it. But the point is, that was my understanding of how the antibodies worked. Did that change with COVID? And see, this is just a question that I'm asking. I'm not being funny. I'm not being sarcastic, but people who are so like pro-vaccination, we got to be able to have this conversation because maybe y'all know something that we don't know. So maybe you can give us some education. But my whole thing is, if antibodies work that way, and there are plenty of us, and I'm not the only one that has had COVID and survived, right? But if antibodies work that way, and I got antibodies, and I still do, because I got tested again, so I still got my antibodies. Everybody in my household still has their antibodies. Why would we get the vaccination? Now, I'm not being funny, right? I'm not being funny. I'm having a critical conversation. And so people who are pro-vaxxers, because there's some of them in this chat, I know many of them in the community, you know, we ain't trying to do none of that shit. You know how we are in this community. But, you know, we got some visitors. We got some visitors that ain't for us. The question is, if that's how antibodies work, why would we get the vaccination? Thank you, Rebecca. Rebecca says, great question. But I'm asking, can somebody tell me? And don't give me your stupid little comments and you ain't not a doctor and you don't know anything. But if that's how antibodies work, again, I'm still asking and no one is telling me. Right? Right? No one is telling me. So here's what somebody's saying. Hold on a second. Hold on, family. Hold on. So Valentina Higgins is saying, they're saying you can get it twice. I do not want the vaccine, but they're also saying that you can get it with the vaccine. So again, like, see, we got to be really critical with this. If you can get it twice, just like some people were able to get chickenpox twice, although many people did not get it twice, but some people were able to get chickenpox twice. It's just my understanding that if you got it the second time around, it was less severe But just like with the vaccine, there are people who tested positive with COVID after being fully vaccinated. So it doesn't stop it. See, well, no one is telling me. No one is telling me. No one is telling me. We got the Riri, the only Riri in the audience. So, Mr. Riri, tell me where I'm wrong. Give me the evidence. Don't just come in here because you're in your emotion, because you're so damn emotional. Because you obviously don't know this community. We don't like emotional people. Emotional people are dangerous. We don't like emotional people. We like people who can have critical discourse. We like people who are emotionally mature. We like people who can have a conversation and not get mad that somebody doesn't agree with them. We don't like babies. Yeah, we're going to bully you because we don't like babies, right? We don't like emotional toddlers, have temper tantrums, falling out, right? Thank you, Dean. Like we don't want people like Mr. Riri in a room. Go away. Somebody block him. Where's my moderators? Block Mr. Riri. He needs some medication. But anyway, no one can really answer that. Right? Yeah, Diane, you're absolutely right. They don't know it yet. And scientists are still studying it. Right? 450 Club. I don't care. I know what you're saying, 450 Club, but we don't live in fear. See, in this channel, we don't live in fear. We don't allow the bullies to cause us to live in fear. They want to shut the channel down, shut it down. It ain't that serious. Yeah? Right? So, I mean, I'm done with this conversation. We're going to move on to the next one. But my whole thing is, if you have antibodies, why would you get the vaccine? If you have COVID antibodies, why would you get the vaccine? This whole thing is fear-based. And unfortunately, America, I'm only going to talk about America. I can't talk about any other country because I don't live anywhere else, right? But America, I have to be able to say it, is built on fear. The way you control a whole population of people is to incite fear in them. The way you control a whole population of people is to make them feel like they're going to die, to make them feel like their loved ones are going to be destroyed, to make it feel like you have no choice if you want to survive, to make it feel like, oh my God, this is a big outbreak and it's going to destroy us all. You got to get protected today, to make it feel like, don't you love your mama? She could die. Don't you love your children? He gonna die too. They go outside. They're gonna die. Like, you have to put fear in people in order to control them. When you start asking critical questions, for some reason, those critical questions will highlight the insecurities, the ignorance, or the lack of knowledge that many people have. And no one wants to be made to be the fool. Nobody wants to be wrong. Nobody wants to turn out to say, okay, yeah, maybe I overreacted. Nobody wants that. Everybody wants to be right. See, I don't want to be right or wrong. I'm just asking questions. I'm just asking questions. I don't want to be right or wrong. So if I'm asking questions of the people who are afraid, then of course those people can't give me answers because they don't even know why they're afraid. They don't even realize psychologically that they are afraid because they have been conditioned and brainwashed by all the propaganda that's out there that's being force-fed down your throats every day. They're not letting you look at things critically. They're not asking you questions. They're not sharing with you their research, their data. They're not doing it. They're just making you feel so afraid. And most of the people who are afraid don't read. Most of the people who are afraid are not asking the right questions. They're not taking their time to make informed decisions. They're not doing any of that. They're just acting out on fear. So people who are not afraid, people who are asking questions, people who are reading, people saying, well, let me think about that for a second. I'm not going to tell you no, but today I'm not going to tell you yes. I want to really look at this. I want to see how it might impact me, how it might infect me. I want to understand what I'm doing. People like that, the scaredy cats can't stand them. The scaredy cats cannot stand people like that. So I say to you guys, family, never be afraid to ask questions. Never tiptoe around things because you are afraid that you're going to be singled out. You are afraid that you're going to be outcast. You are afraid that you're going to be isolated from everyone else. That's okay. Sometimes it's all right to be isolated from other people. Let their asses go on out there and do whatever the hell they want. You ain't got to follow them. Leaders don't follow people. Let them go out there and do whatever the hell they want to do. Let them be sheeple. Let them be guinea pigs. Let them be lab monkeys. Let them do whatever they want to do. Whatever they want to do, let them do it. Don't argue with them. Don't get mad that they're doing it. And don't let them put their fear on you. As simple as that. Right? Somebody says, one has to question why the marketing of this vaccine is so strong with so much money behind it. It doesn't make sense. Viruses mutate. Even a mandate virus will mutate. Same with the HPV virus. Many strains. The vaccine for HPV only covers one strain. So, I was doing some research and I went back to the Spanish flu. And there's a lot of research that recently came out about that where they have all the documented citations. So you can look it up. You can go back to papers that was written in the early 1900s. You can look at all of that stuff. But nonetheless, they had so many vaccines at that time. The first doctor, I forgot his name, but the first doctor that came out in the Spanish flu with the first vaccine where he believed it to be, I think he believed it to be a bacterial type of sickness that was going on. And they discovered that it wasn't, right? Shout out to B1 for that $5 donation. I appreciate that, right? They discovered that it wasn't. And then another vaccine came out where they realized that it wasn't bacterial. It was actually a virus, right? And the vaccines were not protecting against the virus. But what the vaccines were doing was if you got the virus, it was helping to reduce the effects of the virus, such as pneumonia, will have on you, right? So it wasn't stopping the virus. It was just trying to control the side effects of getting the virus and what can come secondary as a result of the virus. The same thing is happening right now. The same thing is happening right now, right? So it's a matter of, it's not the virus that is going to stop. So I don't know why people think that the vaccine is going to stop the virus. It's not, right? The vaccine is not going to stop the virus. What it's saying is to you is that if you were to get the virus, it would make your effects even less. Shout out to Tea Time for that donation. I appreciate that, right? So I just want you guys to know that y'all have to be able to ask critical questions. Stop being scared about things. Stop going out here and believing the hype on everything you see. Just ask questions. It doesn't mean that you won't get the jab. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get it. What it means is if you choose to get the jab, it's because you are well informed, because you did your own research and you did not rely on media coverage of what people are telling you from conversations or what doctors are pushing down your throat. And when you ask them critical questions, they can't even answer it. They don't even know. What it just simply means is that do your research, know what you're getting into, know what's involved in it, okay? And then make a critical decision and understand that once you make that decision, you made it because you were comfortable and not because somebody tried to convince you or instilled fear in you to make the decision, period. Now let's move on to the drag queens. Y'all do know about drag queen story time, right? Or story hour. Tell me If y'all know about it, come on now, participate in the chat. Today is active day, active participation day. Do you guys know about the Drag Queen Story Hour? Okay, good. Some people say no, other people say yes. So let me go ahead and just give you guys some information about the Drag Queen Story Hour, because I want to know what you think. I'm curious. I'm curious to see what you guys think. So let me go ahead and share the screen. Give me a second, family. I am going to share the screen, and we're going to talk about Drag Queen Story Time. And I don't want you guys to be so emotional. I just want to know what you think and critically answer the question, right? So this is Drag Queen Story Time, and this is their website, or Drag Queen Story Hour. And Drag Queen Story Hour, what is Drag Queen Story Hour? Drag Queen Story Hour is just what it sounds like. Drag queens reading stories to children in libraries, schools, and bookstores. Drag Queen Story Hour captures the imagination and play of the gender fluidity of childhood and gives kids glamorous, positive, unabashedly queer role models. In spaces like this, kids are able to see people who defy rigid gender restrictions and imagine a world where people can present as they wish, where dress up is real. Drag Queen Story Hour is a fun and important program that celebrates diversity, is that word, in the way that children may dress and act. It encourages children to look beyond gender stereotypes and embrace unfettered exploration of self. Children. Programs like Drag Queen Story Hour encourage acceptance of difference and help to prevent bullying while providing an enjoyable literary experience. And that is coming from Judy Zuckerman, Director of Youth and Family Services, Brooklyn Public Library. Drag Queen Story Hour. What y'all think? Now, I just want to know what y'all think. So Jehovah Panther says, here's the thing. Drag queens and drag shows are for nightlife, often taboo nightlife. Somebody says, can we get back to letting kids be kids, please? What the hell? Right? Somebody else says, I would not be taking my children to any libraries with that. Someone else is saying, nope, they're recruiting another twisted. Where is it? Oh, shit. Good Lord. Another twisted way to wrap our children's mind and introduce them to sexuality too soon. Someone else says, shout out for that donation, Marie. Thank you for that. Drag queens, leave our children alone. I miss being a kid. Double Dutch, red light, green light, tag, etc. The parents should be ashamed. Children are being sexualized. Now, here's the thing. Somebody says, I don't agree with it. It's focusing on children who are not ready for the regular birds and bees talks. Somebody else says, I believe it will be pushed in the Black community because we don't fight. Another person saying, what are we becoming? Somebody else says drag queen should be for adults, though. Corrupting children's minds. Let kids be kids. Now, let's have this little conversation. So here's the thing. Here's somebody's question. So does the Jewish population allow this in their children's schools and libraries? Sid is saying rich liberals in New York are funding charter schools in Texas that are set up to teach alternative lifestyles to Black elementary school kids. Here's the thing. Everyone is different, right? There's going to be some people in their populations and in their cultures that are okay with it. Then there's going to be people that's like, absolutely hell no. My child does not need to be thinking about dressing up like anything other than what I put them in because they're children, right? My whole thing is, when I say things are an agenda, a lot of people get mad at me because they feel that I'm being insensitive. And they feel that I'm being forced to say these kind of things, and I they don't want me to be bullied by the cisgender population, and I should be able to speak freely. So here's what I have to say to those people, because this is what caused me to bring up this thing. Here's what I have to say to those people. Why the hell do you think I'm being bullied? Me? Why do you think I'm being, and who the hell is bullying me? Who's bullying me not to be in support of this? Why can't I have my own mind? See, this is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of behavior that we're starting to see. If you have a difference of opinion for what the agenda is or what is being pushed, now they want to come after you. They want to bully you. They want to control your thought. They want to control what you say. They want to control what you put out. They want to censor you. And then if you don't agree with them, they bully you and try to strip you of any opportunities, any advancement, any careers. They try to strip you from it when you don't think like everybody else. Why is it that I have to be the one to come out and say, this is fine, we should all do this, it's okay, it's celebrating diversity because you guys put the word diversity in it, I gotta eat it up as such? Why is it? Why is it that people cannot express their opposing views without being beat up, shamed, or censored? It goes back once again to a critical conversation. Why can't we have a critical conversation of whether or not this is appropriate for our individual children? See, if you want your children to listen to it or be a part of it, that's okay. You get to do what you want to do with your children. But for people who don't want their children a part of it, why are they now being ostracized? Why are they being censored? Why are they being called anti-gay? Like, when did it become okay for you to parent other people's kids or decide what other people's kids can learn about or what they can read about or what they participate? When do you get to decide what other people's children do? But this is how they do it. They force feed you with buzzwords. Diversity. Children get to dream, dress however they want. Learn about gender fluidity. But that's your language. So now you're telling me that I have to teach my children your language. And if I don't teach my children your language, then I'm wrong? Then I'm anti anything? Are you actually saying to me that we cannot teach our children tolerance if we don't allow them to participate in environments that go against maybe our moral beliefs, maybe our religious beliefs, maybe fucking beliefs that we just want to have? Like, you mean to tell me in order for us to teach our children tolerance, we have to use your language and participate in your programs? Is that what you're telling me? I'm asking, is that what this society is telling us if we say that we don't want other people teaching our children about sexuality, about sex, about sexual orientation, about any of the stuff that we feel it may not be appropriate given their age. If we say we don't want this, are you guys, and when I say you guys, I'm talking about the people who are pushing for this, are you now infringing upon our rights? And then you wonder why there's so much animosity and division and anger and hostility going on. See, when you start to try to control people and how they think and what they can and cannot do, when you start to control people, the natural reaction is going to be for people to push back. The natural reaction is going to be for people to fight back. Why can't we just respect the fact that people get to make decisions in how they run their households and how they allow their children to learn about certain things at the time frames that they're ready to teach them? You understand what I'm trying to say? I think it's starting to get real sticky here. I don't know about you guys, but I remember when my children, my older children, my youngest child is in a Black-owned school cooperative, and we're not with any of the bullshit anywhere, right? So we educate our own, and we prepare our own, and we teach our own children how to critically think. And there's nothing wrong with that. You see, when Black people say stuff like that, people get frustrated. And they say stuff like, oh, well, this is why we have some anger. You're teaching your children hate. But you don't tell people who send their children to yeshiva schools or Catholic schools or anything like that they're teaching their children hate, right? They're teaching their children to respect their faith, their belief systems, their culture. They're teaching their children that, but when we do it, it's a problem. It's a problem, right? But nonetheless, I remember when my older children was in the public school system, and they came home with a paper, and you had to sign. Anybody else went through this? Where you had to sign whether or not it was going to be permissible for your children to learn about sex education. You had to give your permission. Well, at least in our school district, we had to give permission. And when my children were in middle school, I put no. You don't have permission to teach my 12-year-old about sexual education. I do a great job with teaching my kids. Right? I made that decision. I remember signing the paper, no, dating it, and sending it back to school. Do you believe the teacher sent another fucking form home, this time X'd where I was to sign, and put a highlighter asking for my signature there? Didn't highlight or X the part that says I don't want my child to have this education. So I once again signed that I do not approve it. I highlighted it. I circled in it, and I said, don't send another form to my house, please. Thank you. This is what I mean when I say, when you send your children to the public school system, they're going to decide what your children learn, how they learn it, when they learn it, even when you say you don't want them to learn it. How do I know that they honored that form? How do I know that they took my daughter or my son out of the class when they was teaching that? How do I know that they did that? You understand what I'm trying to say? I don't know, because I wasn't there. If you didn't even honor my initial decline, how am I going to be so comfortable and confident that you're going to honor my second decline? So no, I don't want them teaching my children anything. Here's Viva. Viva said, did they get the message? Viva, they got the message, because what they do in that school and what they did was the form comes stapled. Now, I don't know how they do it in your schools, right? But in my children's school, they have to have composition books. Remember composition books? And anytime there's correspondence that's sent home because of the children's age and stuff, they will staple it in the book. And they will send it home so they can make sure you sort it. It was a matter. They don't give it to the children. They staple it. So when you come home and you open up that book, you're there to see all the forms. That's when my daughter was in the that grade. When my son, who is 6 years younger than my daughter, my oldest son is 6 years younger than my daughter. When he went, they had a folder of all the communication that was supposed to go to the parents. So you had to bring a folder in school, and all the communication that had to go to the parents went in the folder. And one side was for what you leave home. The other side of the folder is what you had to bring back. So on that side of the folder was, once again, listen to what I'm saying, the form that had the X and the highlighter. The other side of the folder, when you send the information back to them so they can take it out, that the form that I initially signed was still there. So did they receive it? Yeah, they did. Of course they did. See, I'm an email writer. I'm a certified letter sender. I don't know if you guys are, but I am. See, when you start doing, excuse my French, you know it ain't French, right? When you start doing fuck shit like that, I'm writing emails and I'm CCing up the chain, and then I'm sending a copy to my attorney. It's simple. It's simple. And not only am I going to certify mail you a letter, I'm also going to write you an email, and in the email, let you know that you should have received the letter by now. I'm following up based on the letter that I sent, certified mail. I haven't gotten a response. Attached to this email is the letter that I sent. I am looking forward to your correspondence. So I back it up by attaching the PDF file, not a Word, because they can change a Word document. The PDF file, I'm attaching it by putting it in the email as well. I'm playing games with people. See, we have to have this kind of tenacity when it comes to our children. We have to have this kind of focus when it comes to protecting our moral obligations to how we rear our children, how we control our households. Because if you don't, clearly the government is going to get involved. See, some of y'all don't like this talk. Because some of y'all, just like the person I talked about when it came to COVID, that didn't read the informed consent, didn't ask any questions, everything came digitally, and only thing he did was signed it and then got his jab. See, those kind of people ain't writing emails. Those kind of people are going to say, well, you know something, listen, it's not a big deal. They're going to have to learn anyway. See, they don't think about, well, if you're going to be teaching my children about something that's so sensitive or controversial, what language are you going to be using? How is it going to be delivered? Can I see the curricula? A lot of people don't ask those questions, but you are entitled to know those things. See, that's going to require you to be diligent. That's going to require you to be active. That's going to require you to show the fuck up. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't like to do that. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to show up. And when you give some people the power of educating their own children, they don't want to do it. COVID, if nothing else, has proven that you can. It might have been stressful for many of us who had to homeschool our children. Well, I had to homeschool my child. right? Because our little house where our children go to school is only about 50 of them in the school, right? Obviously, we couldn't send them to the school because of COVID, so we all had to stay home. And my child tried to do the online classroom, paying tuition for what when he's on YouTube. So I said, fuck it. I read the laws in my state, the good old state of New Jersey, the Garden State. I read the laws in my state regarding education, and we are a homeschooling state. We ain't even got to write a letter to the Board of Education and say, oh, I'm going to homeschool. We don't even have to do that shit in this state. So guess what I did? I purchased IXL, which shout out to Zyx Institute, right? It's a school that my son was in, right? I purchased an IXL subscription that not only brings your child through their year, like everything they should be learning in the year that they're in. My child has been skipped. So now my child will be 8, but he's going into the 4th grade, right? Because he met the third grade criteria. He passed the New Jersey standards for 3rd grade, and he's 7, so he's going into the 4th grade. But see, this is the power of educating your own children, because I cut out all the other bullshit. Everything else is socialization. We have play dates, they socializing. Cut out all the other bullshit. That way, I ain't got to worry about you sending paper talking about you're going to have drag queens come to the school and read to my kids. Are you going to teach my children about gender fluidity? Are you going to teach my child about anything I haven't given you permission to teach my child on? Hello? You ladies and gentlemen, y'all can do it. You can educate your children. You can do it. When you get into this world of unschooling your kids, and I'm not telling y'all what to do. I'm not telling y'all to unschool your kids. You can keep your kids in the school. I'm not telling y'all not to do that whatsoever. But what I'm saying to you is just listen to me. When you get into the world of unschooling, you meet so many people who have unschooled successfully, and their children go on to great universities, and they are coming out of universities with alarming grades, like meaning like they're knocking shit out the box. They're going on to be great people. They think about money differently. They think about social capital differently. They think about cultural capital. Because see, the world is your playground when you unschool your kids. Taking your child on vacation and teach them things about other indigenous people or other cultures or other religions or whatever the case is. See, the public school ain't going to do that for your child. You could teach your children about money like we do in our unschooling environments, that the public school ain't going to teach your child about money. See, y'all already know who's been with me for a long time. My son started investing in the stock market at 12 years old. See, the public school ain't going to teach your child that. So when I think about how my children turned out and how the youngest one is turning out, I'm cool with teaching my own. I'm good with it. It's okay. If you don't want the government to interfere, you got to start being proactive in how you go about managing your house. Because the way this push is going, this political push is dangerous. I can't wait for 2024. See, I ain't going to get on this conversation with y'all, but I'm going to tell y'all like this. I cannot wait for 2024 because somebody's time is up. The time was up when they had day one in the house. The time was up. But I know that's going to make some of y'all mad, but that's okay. Y'all can go ahead and get mad. It's okay. Time is up. And I know I'm not the only person that feels like this. There's too much fuck shit going on. That's all behind an agenda. Let's get into this critical race theory. Right? That's what I'm saying. Somebody said it here. Somebody said, how about they bring a Congress member to the school and teach them about reparations, all that other shit? They ain't going to bring no Congress member in the school to teach about no goddamn reparations, right? They ain't going to do that. Let's go. And somebody else said my twins are 13. We are still e-schooling. I hear that. Let's go on. Let's go on to critical race theory. How many of you guys, I'm going to say this and I'm out. How many of you guys know about critical race theory? Now, I know this is another controversial topic, but we're going to have a conversation about it. How many of y'all know about critical race theory? Somebody said, did you speak about kids having to take the jab without parental consent? My kids ain't taking no goddamn jab without my consent. They can kiss my entire brown ass. Okay. Shoot. I'm just saying. Your kids can take it without your consent. They're children. See, the government can't tell my children when they're grown and when they're not grown. I tell my children when they're grown and when they're not grown. They all programmed. You understand? I'm the mama bear. No one tells me how to run my house. Everybody else, 17-year-old running the street till 1 o'clock in the morning. Mine got a curfew. And he comes home. I don't play those kind of games. That's one thing. See, some old school stuff I have to let go of because some old school stuff was toxic. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Some old school stuff is toxic. We just got to let go of some old school. Come on, can we have a conversation, y'all? This is addressing the Black community Sundays, right? This is not Mental Health Friday. We having a critical conversation. And we already know that some of us, all of us, everybody listening, we all got some habits from some older generations we need to leave behind, right? I ain't telling y'all what they are for y'all. Everybody's different. But we all got some habits that we need to leave behind. But there's one habit, I don't know about y'all, but I will tell you me. There's one habit that I don't leave behind. Children are children. Now, that doesn't mean my children don't have a voice. They have a voice. The other day, we all sat down and we talked about the vaccines. We talked about what it is. My daughter's like, oh, Mom, I'm afraid they're going to make me do it because I'm in a medical field. And I said, have they mandated you to do it yet? She said, no, but I'm afraid they're going to do it. I said, well, let's cross that bridge when you get there. Have you continued to do your research? Are you following the journal articles about these studies? Are you following them? Are you looking at the stats from all the site that reports the side effects, the deaths, the adverse reactions? Are you? And she's doing that because I make her. And I'll send it to her and she'll read it and I'll say, I'll talk to you later on about it. Because and she's 23 years old. But this is how you have to have conversations with your children. Do what you want to do. But at the end of the day, I say that to say she's 23 years old, but she's still my child. It doesn't mean I'm telling her what to do, but I'm teaching her how to think, how to ask questions, how to respect me as well, how to consider how it's going to make me feel, just like I consider how it's going to make them feel, because we're a unit. We're a team. If this team gets broken up, anybody can infiltrate it. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like, when you are at war, you got to make sure everybody in your platoon is moving the same way. It can't be no divisions. So there are some old school things I did keep. Because my mama, I don't know about your mamas, but my mama used to tell me, when you walk out this house, you represent me. When I leave, I represent you. If I do something that's, my mother had a nasty mouth. She's just saying, if I do something that was fucked up, they're going to question how I'm raising you guys. If y'all do something that's fucked up, they're going to question how I'm raising you guys. Don't walk out this goddamn door and make me look bad. That's what Joyce Butler used to say. I'm trying to tell y'all. I'm trying to tell you. And some things I keep. Don't walk out this door and make some decisions, and then I don't know what decisions you're making where it affects me, and now I got to compensate for it. Because I'm not going to put myself in a position that now y'all got to bear my burden. That's a whole nother conversation. That's right, Rachel. It's about being on code. Y'all got to be on code. Let's talk about critical race theory. Some people don't know what critical race theory is. So let's share this screen real quick. And we're going to just wrap this up with critical race theory real quick. Because I ain't got much to say about it. Because this is not a new concept. Critical race theory has been around for 40 years or so, right? Or maybe even more. But it's in academia, right? This is stuff that, when you're going for your master's degree, your bachelor's degree, your doctorate degree, some people incorporate critical race theory into their theories, or they use it to push back against it, or they use it to support their theories. This is usually in the academic world, right? So now they want to bring critical race theory to grades K to 12. Now I'm going to say some shit, and we're not going to all agree, but that's okay. So here's what it says. Is critical race theory a way of understanding how American racism has shaped public policy, or a divisive discourse that pits people of color against white people? That's what the argument is out there. A lot of people feel, I'm going to tell you what critical race theory is in a second, right? A lot of people feel that critical race theory will cause more tension, more division, and is not a good way to, it's not a good thing to implement into the educational school system from K to 12. And we should not be teaching our children about this, right? So it says critical race theory is an academic concept that is more than 40 years old. The core idea is that race is a social construct, and that racism is not merely the product of individual bias or prejudice, but also something embedded in the legal system and policies. Now, let me stop right there for just a second. I think that many of us can agree that race is a social construct. Now, we know who constructed race because it wasn't our black and brown asses, but we know who constructed race, right? I mean, I know some of y'all about to get sensitive. Some of my white audience about to get sensitive. Don't get sensitive, because we having a open conversation. Remember what I said earlier today about emotions, right? Don't get in your emotions. Don't start getting all angry and flustered. Don't start slamming things. Don't start getting on here, calling people names and being all crazy. Don't like me 5 minutes ago, now hate me now. Let's just have a conversation. We don't all gotta agree with each other, but we need to learn how to talk to one another, right? So here's the thing. Don't worry, David, I'm gonna read it to you. We know that race is a social construct, and we know why race in America, I'll just talk about America. We know why race in America was socially constructed, what the purpose was for doing that, right? What critical race theory is saying, let me stop sharing for a second. What critical race theory is saying is that they want to add to the curricula how the system in and of itself has policies historically and even current day that has been racist. They talk about redlining and how the banks chose who to give mortgages to, or how they would value somebody's property who was considered in a Black area versus how someone's property was valued in a white area, and how that led to discrimination in the banking system. It talks about different governmental policies that were designed that hurt Black people, that hurt other people of color, or other people who are considered of minority status. It talks about those things. It talks about how all types of things that have been historically found in this country that has hurt Black people, and particularly ADOS. Because we know the argument is typically almost always about ADOS, right? Because these policies have been erected, a long time ago, before we had so much immigration. Now, immigration has always been in this country, but it was more toward white people immigrating into this country than any other population of people. Not that other populations of people did not immigrate into the country, they did, but we're talking about large numbers of people, right? And so what I'm saying to you is there's a lot of policies that has hurt African Americans since they have been emancipated, and even before that. So what they're saying is we need to teach in the educational system how these policies have hurt populations of people, so that we can bring understanding, and this is going to help us fix things. This is what's going to help us address racism and other things like that. Now, people are pushing back. People are saying that we should not have critical race theory in the school. They don't want their children learning about this. You know, it's going to make white children feel bad about themselves, is demoralizing. This is what some of the arguments out there are, right? We know race is a social construct. We also know that racism is interwoven into the threads of American society. Whether critical race theory is in the schools or is not in the schools, racism is going to be there. Now, and a lot of y'all ain't going to like what I'm about to say, but I'm about to say it anyway. I ain't trying to be funny. And I know some academic people are going to be mad if I say this, but that's okay. They can get mad. I don't care. I can care less if it's in a school or not. It ain't going to change a racist motherfucker. I'm serious. It ain't going to change. I don't care how many conversations you have in the school about race and however you teach it, because you're always going to skew it anyway. You're going to skew the information anyway. You're not going to teach it right. And it ain't going to change shit. I don't care how many diversity trainings you give people, cultural competency trainings you give people, cultural sensitivity. People are inherently racist. And I'm not saying all people are operating in their bias, bigot ways, but there's a lot of people that operate like that. Do you think because you tell them that is wrong and here's the history and this is how it hurt people, do you really think that that's going to stop it? I'm interested in all, not just financial portions of it, all that reparations do. I'm interested. I want my bag like everybody else has gotten their bag. And when I'm talking about my bag, I'm not talking about me, the individual. I'm talking about my people, period. We can't have a conversation about anything else until you right that motherfucking wrong. I don't care if you put critical race theory in the school. It ain't going to change a racist motherfucker. It ain't going to change no racist systems anyway. It ain't going to do it. Just because you put it in school don't mean that other people are going to want their kids to kumbaya with my kids. Just because you put it in schools don't mean that other people are going to welcome me into their communities. Just because you put it in schools don't mean that police officers ain't going to pump bullets in people. That ain't going to change it. Just because you put it in schools don't mean that there's going to be now black faces in the top 100 of big mainstream fucking corporations out there. It ain't going to change that. Stop giving me little piecemeal things to try to pacify my people. This has nothing to do with us. This is y'all liberal shit. This is what liberals do. I call this shit gaslighting. That's how I feel about it. Don't gaslight us. It ain't gonna change nothing. Some people just are nasty, evil, bigoted people, prejudiced people, discriminatory people. Some people are just evil. Why can't we accept the fact that some people are just evil? And we're not going to change generations of their evilness. I don't know why we think when these symbolic things are given to us is going to make a difference. We don't trust them in educating our children about almost anything else, but we're going to trust them and educate our children on critical race theory when half these motherfuckers don't even understand it. That has been in the academic world. So how are you going to make the language? Now, I can read the language, believe it or not. Thank God I got a doctorate from Rutgers University. Go Rutgers. I can read the language. I understand the language. But that language is not easily accessible to a lot of people. So how are you going to make it so that not only people understand it, but people can have critical discourse around it without wanting to knock each other out? Now, y'all know that some of us, family, talking to my melanated family for just a second. Give me a second, y'all. The other people, give me a second. Talk to my melanated family. Now, y'all know that some of us can't even talk to our own goddamn family members about race, about wanting to knock some of these motherfuckers out. I'm just trying to say, we can't even talk to them about it. So how are we going to sit down there and talk to the person who doesn't recognize their own racism, that doesn't recognize their own prejudice, that doesn't recognize their own microaggressions, that doesn't recognize their boundary crossing? Y'all know what I'm talking about when I say boundary crossing, right? I told you about the one time, I will never forget it. She probably watching this live. How you doing, boo? I won't shout your name out, doctor, but you know who I'm talking to. She watches my shit. But I was out to lunch one time with the lady who watches my shit. It was her. She was a white lady. It was another white lady, me, and a black lady, another black lady. We're out having lunch. Shout out to Ife. Thank you so much for that donation. We out there having lunch. My salad comes out. Everybody else's food comes out. And the one white lady who watches my shit, she took her fork and she reached over. She was sitting across from me. She reaches over her plate into my plate and said, "This looks good. I want to taste it." And she goes to dig her fork in my salad. And my reflex, woo, that shit was fast. She almost had a heart attack. You know, she never went back out to lunch with me. That's okay. But in that conversation, we wind up having a conversation about boundaries and what made her think. Shout out to Brother John for joining the channel. Appreciate that, brother, for joining the channel. What made her think that it was okay for her to put her fork in my plate? Like, she did not even consider that. First of all, we're just classmates. We're not ace boo coon. We don't know each other. Our kids ain't grow with each other. We're not friends. That's why I got my shirt that says "We're not friends, fuck off," because people need to know. What made her think that it was okay for her to do such a thing? And so at the table now, we're all social workers. We're all clinical scholars. We're all social workers. We're sitting down at the table and we tried to talk to her about cultural differences that frown upon that kind of behavior and why it's not acceptable and it triggers wounds in some black folk. Like, you just don't do shit like that. And she said, yes, I'm not kidding you, Miss Melanated. I slapped the shit out of her hand, but it wasn't done to hurt her. It was a reflex. Come on, Melanated family. Come on. Don't try to act like I'm the only one that's like that. Melanated family, you know we don't play these kind of games. Shout out to Iso Novoso. Thank you. Right? We know we don't play those kind of games. Come on, Melanated family. Don't leave me out there like that. Don't leave me out there like that. Y'all know we don't play those kind of games. Trying to have me out there like that on my own. Thank you, Elder Diane Berry. She said exactly. We don't play those kind of games. And so I didn't do it to hurt her. It was a reaction. Blah! Fuck out my plate. What you doing? So we decided that we was going to have this conversation. Now remember, it was 2 black women, 2 white women. We decided we was going to have this kind of conversation. Now, we're a bunch of social workers at the clinical scholarly level at that. Stripes on our arms. Graduations, we wear the wizard hats. We wear our regalia, a big red regalia that's heavy as hell, to graduation with the big wizard hat. This is what we wear, right? With our stripes to show that we're doctors. This is who we are. But I couldn't even have a conversation with this joker at the table. Do you know we never really spoke again? We follow each other on social media. We may like each other's pictures, but we never even had a conversation again because she couldn't stomach it. And the only thing we were trying to do was tell her how we perceive that kind of information and the wounds that it triggers in us. Well, I would never. I don't even just consider it that way. My granddaughter is part Mexican. What the fuck are you talking about, lady? Like, you couldn't even stomach the fact and say, okay, I didn't understand it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. You couldn't even be mature about that. You have to go in defense mode. So we couldn't have the conversation. How are we going to bring critical race theory into our school and expect the teachers to be able not only to have a conversation with each other, but be able to teach it to our children? If we can't even have a real honest conversation in this country right now about race and what has been happening, if we can't have a conversation in this country about reparations without wanting to kill each other, how are we going to have critical race theory in the school? I'm just saying, how are we going to have that conversation? Right? Althea says facts, teacher here. So Althea is a teacher. I don't know how it's going to happen. Right? We're going to have a whole bunch of fake people in the school. Y'all not even friends now. We already know. See, Althea, I'm not calling you out, Althea. I don't know you personally, Althea. So don't take this personally. But y'all supposed to be teachers, all dedicated in a school. If you go to a school with white teachers, right? All supposed to be dedicated to the education of the children. And y'all not even friends. Y'all don't even like each other. Y'all even argue and bicker about each other. I don't know. I just don't rock with it. I just don't rock with it. I'm just saying, I would love to get to a place where we can have a conversation about race. But that's not my torch I'm carrying. I'm not running that race. I'm not in the race Olympics when it comes to being a kumbaya world. Like, if you rock with me, I rock with you. If you don't, fuck you. I don't care. Don't bother me. You're not paying my bills. I don't know. I'm just saying. See, this is what I'm talking about. See, this is an example of what I'm talking about. Now, Connie, I know you don't mean any harm, Connie. So don't take it the wrong way, Connie. We're gonna have a conversation, Connie, just for a quick second. But Connie, if you've been watching my show, you know I have teachable moments when I see something that comes up. There's gonna be a teachable moment. So Connie Cox Copen says, that's not a cultural issue. That's a no class, no manners, no respect issue. I would have slapped her hands too. What nerve? You're right, Connie. But let's really unpack the word cultural. See, Connie, you already know this, Connie. And if you don't, I'm going to say it and maybe you might learn something. I don't know. But I'm assuming you already know it. My assumption might be wrong. Culture has nothing to do with race. Culture is customs, it's beliefs, it's behaviors. That's what culture is, right? So yeah, maybe that's part of your culture too, that you would slap her hands. But we're talking about the relationship dynamic historically in this country. So culturally speaking, for many of us in our homes, there's certain things that we don't do, right? We don't reach over people's food. You don't put your hands in somebody's plate without asking. You already seen all the Black people like, yep. Because see, in your house, you may not have these conversations, Connie. But in our house, the conversations are structured in a way that we know what not to do, right? Now, if you throw race in the mix and you bring race at the table, Connie, some people generationally, not my generation, Connie. See, my generation, Connie, will smack somebody quick. I would forget I have a license to practice. I mean, I would forget that I'm a doctor, Connie. If you call me a nigga or spit on me or do some other racist shit to me. Like, Connie, trust Jesus, don't trust me. I'm just saying. Not to you, Connie, personally. I'm just saying, like, some of the videos I see out there, see, Connie, I'm not going to have a conversation. I'm not going to just record while I'm getting spit on, berated, threatened. Like, Connie, for me, I'm from a different generation. It's going to be a whole different ball game. But I say that, Connie, to be able to say to you that I expect for you to say what you say. And I know you think that you did not mean any harm, but even your statement is going to trigger many of us. Because how we look at it, Connie, you don't gotta look at it this way, but how we look at it is you can't even consider or ask the question to see why, as a community of people, that bothers us for a white person to do that to us. See, you don't have to think about the social historical context of what happened to our people and how we had to educate to protect generations of children that came after our ancestors so that they can know how to survive in the presence of white people. We're still teaching our children 100 years later how to survive in the presence of white people. Some people are told things that I don't teach my children. Now, I'm not saying that people that teach their children this is wrong. I understand where you get it from, but my children don't got a slave mentality in this house. Y'all can trust Jesus, don't trust us. We just move differently in this house. I'm just trying to say. But some people teach them, listen, don't argue with them. Don't say nothing. Say yes, ma'am. Say yes, sir. You know, just don't argue with them. Just go on. Try to leave safely. Come on home. Let us know. Let us take care of it. And why do they do that? Because that's how they had to survive. So when we see somebody reaching over the table who is of a different persuasion, who is not melanated, to put their fork in our plate, how we interpret it is your abuse of what you believe is power. So you think that you can just do it and nothing's going to happen to you. You think that you have a right to do it. That's how we interpret it. Maybe that wasn't in her head, Connie. We're not here to figure out what was in her head or not. It was more like, what the fuck is going on? This is not 1952. What the It was one of those kind of situations. You understand what I'm trying to say? Because the way we have to, not the way we had to, but the way we have to raise our children to understand how the enemy moves and how we are to respond to them. Now, I'm glad you would slap her hand as well. But we can't automatically dismiss somebody else's feeling by saying that's not a cultural issue. Because it is. So that's to not even recognize culturally what we do and what we teach our children. And that would be an example of what we say is privilege, or we might say is a microaggression, or we might say is fragility, is not having to step back to examine yourself. Or we might say that is implicit bias, or whatever the case is, whatever language you want to use. And this is why it makes it so difficult to even introduce a concept like critical race theory into the school, because we can't have a conversation without dismissing somebody else's experience or somebody else's feelings, whether you agree with it or not. They were my feelings. And we cannot dismiss my emotions or my feelings. I am entitled to that. But that's historic as well. That's historic as well, why people dismiss that. There's a history with that. But see, when we say that, if we have a history that was passed down to us from generation to generation, then y'all got a history too that was passed down to you from generation to generation that dictates your behavior and how you choose to engage with us in how you choose to tell us, oh, no, that's not that issue. That's not that issue. That's not what it meant. It was rude, but that's not what it meant. That's not okay. Especially not in 2021. We're just cut differently. In 2021, you're liable to have us, not you, Connie, I'm just speaking in general now, right? In 2021, you're liable to have us pull up. So you see how mobs of us are showing up outside of people's doors? See, we're moving differently now. We're moving differently because we're tired. This generation is tired. We pulling up. We knocking on doors. Listen, I ain't got no more to say. I love y'all. I love y'all. I really do. But this shit is very tiring. It's very tiring. The agendas are tiring. Having conversations constantly about race is tiring. I don't want to have the conversations no more. I really don't. I just want them to know that for all of us, every last one of us, nobody's exempt. I want us all to know that in 2021 and beyond, many people are moving differently. You got to be prepared differently mentally, because this is a whole different, this is the same war, but the weaponry is different. The strategies is different. Right? For all of us. Jokers are killing people and they're standing on stand your ground policy, right? Then you have other jokers showing up to people's houses. You got jokers shooting people's kids and not going to jail, right? I mean, it's just different right now. So you never know what you're going to come across. So I think that people need to exercise critical thinking when they're approaching people, when they're dealing with people. Because shit can turn bad for either one of us, because we are in some fragile times. We're in some very sensitive times. Shit can turn bad for any of us. And you never know who you're going to meet on the street. You might just meet your match, or you might just learn a lesson. I'm just thinking that we all have to understand that we got to get to a place where we're all moving differently and we're respecting people just for who they are. But until that happens, it's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly. It's gotten ugly. It's gotten ugly for everybody. No one is exempt. No one is exempt. It's ugly in politics. It's ugly in academics. It's ugly in the workforce. It's ugly in the health industry. It's ugly in law enforcement. It's ugly in neighborhoods. It's ugly in schools. It's ugly everywhere. I'm out. I love y'all all. Seriously, I really do. Peace out tonight. Listen, family, go ahead if you on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified when I go live. Go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. To my 10 haters, go ahead and give the videos a thumbs down. We still love you anyway. To the Riri that used to be in the room, God, thank God he left. The Riri, I love you anyway. You just special. Still love you. And to all my Facebook community, go ahead and hit like, follow the page as well, hit your emotions, and don't be afraid to have difficult conversations. I'm trying to have conversations that can address issues, but it's not always going to be comfortable, and that's okay. We need to be able to have these conversations so that we can move our agendas forward. I love you all, and to all, a good night.